What is your never interrupt an enemy while they are making a mistake moment? I was accused by a neighbor of reversing out my drive and hitting his car. He gave me the date and time I had allegedly done it, and pointed to a small scrape on my car that supposedly matched perfectly the location of the dent on his. This was 7 weeks after the alleged event. By the way, I said it wasn't me but told him to contact his insurance and we'd see what they said. Few weeks later I get a letter from my insurance asking what had happened. To which I responded with the date I had bought my car. And updated my insurance. 2 weeks after the supposed bump. He never spoke to me again, but I used to give him a cheery wave every time I saw him glowering at his window. Years ago I worked extremely hard on preparing a presentation for a tech conference. It would be my first speaking gig. I was nervous AF. I practiced. I refined. I got advice. I practiced some more. My manager was generally a nasty woman, but she was supportive of this, though she never once saw or heard my presentation. We traveled to Vegas. It turns out there was a far greater demand than they expected. So they moved us to the main stage room. They were expecting about 500 plus walk-ins. I was 10x nervous AF. Well, immediately prior to the start, she noticed a very well-known media person and their photographer sitting in the front row. She got all excited and insisted that she was going to co-deliver it. She even went so far as to put her name on title slide. So, I of course was fuming. We go on stage. She does a decent intro and then I start in. She keeps interrupting, so I just let her run with it. It reminded me of a morning show. A bunch of people, with overwhelmingly fake smiles talking over each other. This was a deeply technically topic with a live demo. She fumbled each slide worse than the next. And then she got to the live demo slide and froze. I had the wherewithal to let her die. It was gloriously brutal. We had a, let's say, confrontation after. I left within 2 to 3 months. She got fired shortly after. Oh, and the media people she was prancing for left immediately before the start. I think they were just sitting there from the prior session. Perfect. Roommate's ex abandons their vehicle in front of my house. I tell them to please move it or I will have it towed. Vehicle suddenly has 2 flat tires. Ex files police report claiming my roommate and I had slashed their tires. Waited until ex made their statement to the police about how we had slashed their tires and that is why he couldn't move his vehicle, and filed a claim against us in small claims court. Provided police and the court copies of my and our neighbor's door cam footage showing the ex arriving in the middle of the night to slash their own tires. Cherry on top. Ex shows up in court wearing the same shirt as in the videos. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Roommate and ex had only been dating a few months. Ex turned out to be a grifter and was dating several people at the same time and using each of them for food, shelter, money, etc. I got involved when my roommate was out of town and the soon-to-be ex just sauntered in. Apparently they had learned the code to the garage door, made themselves a sandwich, showered, slept, etc. I thought my roommate had come home early, but when I texted them they were still out of state. The ex left to go out and I changed the garage code. The vehicle wouldn't start, so they just left it there thinking it would be okay. Roommate and a few of the other people the ex was dating find out about each other and they all dump them at once. I ask the ex to please move their car or I will have it towed. I give them 2 weeks. Later on I learned that the ex was having a mental breakdown and they made some very poor decisions. At that point, they broke into some of the other people's houses when they weren't home to do laundry, eat, sleep, and did some other things that got them in trouble with the law but are irrelevant to this story. The ex had no proof that anyone had slashed their tires. The cops just came to the door of me and our neighbors to see if there was any footage. There was. And they closed the case. I guess. They never talked to me again about it. The court case was small claims court. You just have to pay a fee, file a form, have a summons issued to the defendant, and then you both show up in court with your evidence. The ex had no evidence other than a long list of real and perceived grievances with my roommate, but no actual proof, so the judge dismissed the case. I never got to show the video evidence to the judge, but I did share it with the clerk on their lunch break, and they were the ones who pointed out that the ex was wearing the same shirt. In a meeting with my project manager, who has not been in the office or worked a proper full day for months, she has increasingly been annoyed by people bypassing her to get things done by telling me and her other direct reports what to do. I was about to answer a question for stakeholders. She told me to let her speak one sentence and will let me have my bit. I did as I was told. And she told the stakeholder a completely wrong thing about the system we were handling and made a complete fool out of herself. She got sacked this month. I used to live in an apartment that had a very old lease. College students basically passed this place's lease down like inheritance until it came to us. And, legally, the landlord could only increase the rent yearly by a small fraction of the current lease's rent. The exceptions to this were if the apartment was being renovated, in which case it would be her responsibility to accommodate us while renovating, or if it had been vacant for a year between leases. She knew our lease's rent was extremely low, and so wanted to get rid of us and jack up the rent on a new tenant. She sent us a letter about 2 weeks before our lease would be renewed saying she was renovating and we'd have to leave. Well, it happened my roommate was not just a college student, but a law student, and he happened to know she had to give us a lot more notice than that. So we plainly told her we weren't leaving and she'd be welcome to take us to court. Which she did. She told the judge she wanted to renovate, and the judge asked her for the new floor plan and a cost estimate of the proposed renovation. She had none of those things. When the judge asked why, she said she'd only decided to renovate a week prior. When the judge asked why she'd taken this decision after the legal deadline, 6 months' notice or required to end a lease, she said she was only renovating so she could start a new lease on the property. The judge literally facepalmed at her response, dismissed the case, and renewed our lease with no rent increase for the year, since she hadn't presented us a new one with enough delay to contest it. We were just sitting there with our mouths open, bewildered that she could have been dumb enough to say the quiet part out loud straight to the judge. At my current job, part of my duties is to do trailer audits, make sure people are unloading, loading safely, and I was training a new member for the position to do the job. After a few weeks, it turns out that the other person wasn't doing any aspects of the job. Instead, they were just mingling like it was a cocktail party. When asked why they weren't doing anything, they say it was because they were never trained. Well, turns out that due to past complaints about this particular person, management put them on a PIP. That if they got any type of training, they were to have a piece of paper documenting what kind of training it was, who trained them, and management sign off, with all parties' signatures. When they pulled the file that said they were indeed trained in all duties of the job, they just sat there silent and was fired. They were fired because they pulled the same stunt in every department of the building. And mine was their last chance. What instantly ruins a salad? That one piece of lettuce that is oh so slightly rotten. Frozen lettuce at the bottom of the bowl. Happened once. It was so disappointing. Limp greens. 20 years ago, I worked at a tech company in China for a while. They provided lunch in their cafe. Lunch always included a salad. Their version of a salad must have been 3 random ingredients, with mayonnaise on top, hot dog pieces, watermelon, and peas with mayo, salad, raisins, mushrooms, and grapes with mayo, salad. durian, pickled turnip, and pretzel sticks with mayo? Salad. Just walking into that place and seeing the word salad ruined salad. The weirdest part was that other than in this cafe, I had an extremely difficult time even finding mayo in China. Too much or too little dressing? Subscribe, my brothers.